Hello and welcome to our tutorial. We're going to look at nav meshes and how they work. So I'm just going to press play here and we'll just sort of wander through our scene here a little bit. So we're in a corridor and we've got our troll character that we've worked on, and we have another corridor and another corridor, and yeah, so that's where we're at. And what we want is we want behavior from this guy here he wants him to, if we get within a certain range of him, he'll come follow us, and otherwise he'll follow sort of a path. So let's have a look at kind of basic AI, I suppose. So this is my troll character here, and he's got a animator controller. So let's just go to that for a second, and this is it here. So it's not set up correctly, but I'm going to change its walk to the default so that when I press play, he's going to walk. We'll worry about him fighting and all that in a minute, but that's him walking there. So he's just going to walk. So that's just going to help us set the speed of the character. So Unity has built into it a whole bunch of sort of AI tools, and the one that we're going to use is called Nav Mesh. So we have to make a nav mesh. A nav mesh is basically an invisible mesh that we can, get in and we can use to navigate the character, the player character, or the non-player character. And what we're interested in here is setting up this invisible kind of mesh on the floor, and that will determine where this guy can go. And then we need to use a script to control when and how he moves on that nav mesh. So let's just set that up. So I'm going to go back to wireframe. Okay, so this area here is ultimately where I'm going to probably place that character, because we have a set of closed doors here. Now I haven't put any colliders on these doors or anything at the moment. If I can select them, there they are. Yeah, so they have no properties. So I'm not going to use them at the moment, though. I might just turn them off actually, so they don't get in the way. So the floor here is in kind of different segments. Now I actually have a collision mesh, because these meshes are a bit dense, that I'm using for the character, but I'm going to actually use the meshes here for the nav mesh. Not because it's not going to use these meshes, it's just going to use these to generate where the character can go. So basically I have selected the floor of this middle area here, and then these four meshes. That's basically where this troll character would be able to walk up and down these corridors and across this middle section. And you can, we could exclude an area if we didn't want the non-player character to go in there by not selecting it. Now when they're selected, these areas, we have to set them to be static. That's just the rules of the game. So in order for it to work out a nav mesh, each of these objects has to be set to static. That's how it knows which objects to include and which objects to ignore when it's generating the nav mesh. So let's call up those controls. So we're going to go to Window AI Navigation, and we have this window here, and there's different tabs across. So we've got information about the agent, which we'll get to in a minute. Areas, we'll be using this to generate the nav mesh, to bake it, and then this here is going to generate the objects. So we want these four objects, and you can see here it has static clicked beside all of them, so we've turned static on, and we've declared that they're walkable. So there's other options here, so you can actually specifically say don't walk in this area. If you wanted to get the character to walk around, you can designate something as an obstacle, but we'll maybe get onto that in a later tutorial. So in order to get this invisible mesh that the character can work on, we have to bake one, we have to create it. Now I'm not going to go through all of these settings here, but basically they're determining how big or small the nav agent is going to be, and what sort of slope and step it can move up and down. So basically the rules of engagement, how how will this non-player character traverse your terrain. Now this is all completely flat, so it doesn't really matter, but if you had something, if you were using the terrain generator and making hills and valleys, you may want the non-player character not to be able to walk up a hill above a certain angle, for example. So I'm just going to hit the bake key here, and you can see it has generated the mesh very, very quickly. Now I don't really need these meshes up on top, but I'm just going to ignore them for now. They're not linked to the bottom, they're not going to get in my way. But you can see that on the bottom I have a continuous mesh that goes you know, down the 4 corridors and across this middle section here. Okay, so that's my nav mesh generated and made. Now you can see down here it's not visible in the game. So now I'm going to go back to my troll character. Now my troll character was made in Blender, that's it there. And I'm just going to turn off these nav meshes for a minute. You can see here its origin or its pivot point is sort of in front of its head, so that's not terribly helpful for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an empty, and I'm going to put the empty at 0, 0, 0. And I'm going to call this non-player character 1. And then I'm going to put the troll inside that. And the reason I'm doing that is just so I can, after I've placed a nav mesh, I can then kind of control exactly where that troll is going to be in relation to. So the nav mesh is like a capsule collider, and I want it to be able to rotate around that capsule collider correctly, not have it out in front and have his movement look more like a tank turret or something. So so I've added this here. So I've added my troll inside here. And the troll is kind of set up to go. Like I said, I haven't put any controlling scripts really on it yet, but we'll get to that. So on this non-player character, this empty here, I'm going to add in a pre-made component called a Nav Agent, or a Nav Mesh Agent. And that's going to, if I click here from the side, there we go. So my Nav Mesh Agent is, you can see it's up here. So I want to change its base offset, so I want to put it down on sort of the ground level, and then I can change its radius, make it bigger and make it taller to encapsulate the whole character. And then I'm going to take my troll and I'm going to move the troll forward on Z to there, and that way it's, you know, approximately inside this. Now we have placed that at 0, 0, 0. So let's go get this troll in the right position. And good thing I checked on that axis, or we'd have hilarious consequences. So there, yeah, it's roughly inside. Now I'm going to give the troll a capsule collider as well. I could put it on. I can put it on this if I want. So the Nav Mesh Agent is literally just an object that will navigate this mesh. So let's add to the troll. Actually, let's add it to this as well. We can add a physics capsule collider, and then again we can make the radius bigger, and we can make the height bigger, and we can offset it on Y a little bit, and then we'll just spin around, make sure. So we have collision in there, so if I want to shoot it and stuff, we can get that to work. Okay, so now just a couple of little things to be kind of cognizant of. So the forward axis on Z is, in Unity, it defaults as dot forward, and this is going to move in the forward direction. So it's important that we are pointed. Now we are pointed in the right direction, but let's just you know, acknowledge that that's how it is. And if your character, like your non-player character, is kind of crabbing sideways, it's because it hasn't been spun. Also, having this as an empty, I can always spin this if it were looking in the wrong direction. So now I have my non-player character and my troll. It has a Nav Mesh Agent on it, and we've generated the Nav Mesh. Now I need a script. So I have this script here that I've written called non-player character or movement. Now I have another one here called non-player character control that we've looked at before, and this was to do with a health bar and making the health bar and the character go up and down. So we're not going to worry about that for now. We're just going to use this control script for movement. And I'm going to double click on it. Whoops, no, on the script. And open it here in Visual Studio. So I've got a whole bunch of variables. So I'm just going to try and go through these fairly as quickly as I can. So we need to declare the Nav Mesh agent. So which, you can imagine you can have more than one non-player character, so you have to tell it which one you're referring to. So if I had 10 different non-player characters, I'd have 10 different Nav Mesh agents. I have this thing here called the destination. Now this is built into, I've loaded this library here, using Unity Engine.ai. So this is a function from that library, or a method from that library, or an ability that comes out of that library. And if we don't load that in, then these things here, the agent, the destination, that they become kind of gobbledygook. Actually, I tell a lie, that's just a game object that I've called the destination, but this here, the agent, is this Nav Mesh agent, is straight out of that library. This is something I have made up. And this is where all of the interesting stuff happens. So I've got a bool, which is in range, and that's basically, is the troll in range of the character or not. I've got a waypoint 1, waypoint 2, so I'm going to put the character on a patrol, moving from one point to another. Then this is going to be the distance to the waypoint. So when I'm this distance away from waypoint 1, I'm going to turn around and go to waypoint 2. And when I'm this distance away from waypoint 2, I'm going to turn around and go back to waypoint 1. That's my logic here. Now we'll have a look at the script and see if that's how it's set up in a moment. Then I've got my player. So at some point I want to pursue the player. And then so waypoint range is actually, that's, I'm using that there for these. I can delete that. So I've replaced those two separate ones with this one here. So I'm interpreting my own script here. And then range to the player. So basically, if the when we look at the script down below, when the player gets within 10 meters or 10 units of the troll, it's going to stop going to these waypoints and pursue the player. And then when the player gets outside of that range, so if the player is faster than the troll and can get back to 10 units away, then the troll should stop pursuing the player and go back to these two waypoints. And you can have as many waypoints as you want. So let's have a look at how the script works. So this is just to cache the Nav Mesh agent to say which one we're using. And this looks very complicated, but it's actually quite straightforward. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4 ifs here, and they're all effectively the same thing. So once you understand one, you'll understand all of them. So let's just, let's just have a look at this. So first of all, in range is the range, am I in range to the character? We set that down here. So that's going to be false. So this is assuming I'm not in range. So the character is more than 10 units away. So that's that bit. And then this other part here of the if statement is work out the distance between this point and this point. So if the agent, which is the troll, if the troll is the distance between the troll and waypoint 2 is smaller than waypoint range, which is 2 here. So if the distance between the troll and waypoint 2 is smaller than 2, then set the destination of the troll to waypoint 1. So now we're going to walk to waypoint 1. And then down here we're going to say if, and this is basically, it's the opposite of that. So if the distance between waypoint 1 and the troll is below 2, then go to waypoint 2. So these two here will ping the troll backwards and forwards between them. And this here I think I was using as a test. So I can just delete that. Okay, so that's what's going on here. these two here are when the troll should follow the character, and then when the troll should resume its patrol. So if the agent is lower, if the distance between the agent or the troll and the player is less than 10, we've set the player range as 10, then we're setting in range to be true. Now when in range is true, these two cannot be met, so it can't go on patrol. Even if the other part of the if is correct, even if this is lower than 2, but in range is going to be won't be false. So we've gone, so if the player gets within a range of 10, set in range to be true, and then set the destination of the agent to be the player. So it's going to run after the player. And then we've said here, if the destination, or sorry, if the distance between the agent and the player is bigger than 10 and range is true, so if he's already been following me, then set the range to be false, and then set the destination to be waypoint 1. And I've just picked that one randomly. I could easily put waypoint 2 in there, and it'll go to waypoint 2 and then ping back to waypoint 1, etc. So that, I haven't tested this, so this should be fascinating to see if it works. So that's the script. So like I said, it's 4 if statements, and they're all working out the distance between objects, the distance between the troll and the waypoints, the distance between the troll and the player, and based on those distances the troll's behavior will change. So let's just save all that and jump back into Unity, and let's see if we can get that to work. Now we have a few variables to load in, so let's just close up these for a second. So so let me have a look in here at the script again. So dum. So waypoint 1, we haven't put these in yet, we haven't made them, so let's go make some waypoints. So I'm going to go create game object, and I'm going to call this WP1, and I'm just going to make sure it's at a reasonable height, and then I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to call this one waypoint 2, and we will move that all the way down to the other end of this corridor. So basically the troll should walk from one point to the other. So let's go set that up. So waypoint 1 and waypoint 2. I have a feeling this one here, the destination, I was mucking around with when I was doing a test on this before I'd set everything up, so I don't think I need that one, in which case I may have to go back and delete it. The player is the player, and let's just go back to the script, and I'm just going to comment that out. I don't think I need that. Okay, so let's hit save, and let's go back to Unity, and let's press play. And if so I'm just going to hit escape here and see what where we're going. So this is the where's my waypoint 1? So here's waypoint 1. So let's see if we can. So now we've started him on his journey, and we may have to do that because I haven't actually he hasn't got a destination at the very beginning of the script if he hasn't already sort of touched 1 or 2 of them. So you can see he's walked all the way down to this end, and now he's going to walk down here. And he should ping back. Now I'm going to take my player here and I'm going to move it within 10 units, and now he's after me, and now I've moved away, and off he goes back to his off he goes back to waypoint 1. So let's see if we can tease him here. And off he goes back. Oh, he's going to come back looking for me. Nope, I'm too far. And he goes off he goes back to waypoint 1. So you can see that working there. So basically the troll is pinging between these 3 points basically, so that is unnecessary. So it's moving between waypoint 1, waypoint 2 and the player, these 3 places. So you could easily add in a third waypoint, or you could customize this any way you wanted. There's lots you can do with this script. It's quite, like I said, it's quite a simple thing. You could sort of customize this in loads of different ways, and what we'll go on and look at is adding in, using the same sort of logic. We'll basically say, if the Nav Mesh Agent, so the troll, gets within a certain range, then he'll start changing his animation, he'll start firing, or he'll start attacking, whatever. So there's a lot we can still do that we haven't invoked this script yet either, about his health, but we can so there's still quite a bit to do with the troll in terms of controlling its behavior with regard to the player. But just in terms of nav meshes and getting characters to walk on patrols, and then when certain conditions are met, i.e. we're close enough, they'll come off the patrol, and then we can have the troll follow the player. I'm just saying, if you wanted to, there's lots of other kind of permutations on this. So we're using distance as the input. We could very simply have, like, if we wanted to say to try and mimic the behavior of the troll looking at the character, so we could draw or create a cube in front of the character, in front of this troll, that was a trigger. So had no collision, so it'll pass through the walls as the troll rotates. And that box, that cube, would be in front of the troll. And then if we could have on trigger enter, so if I enter that cube or that trigger area, then the troll sees me basically and pursues me. And then when I leave the trigger on trigger exit, I'm out of range and he goes back to his patrol. So you can use all sorts of input. And all sorts, like, if you wanted to kind of mimic the troll being able to see me, you could do it that way, for example. But there's loads of other ways. You could do ray casting as well, in order to get the troll to exhibit certain behaviors. So that's hopefully makes sense to you. Let's just do one where we're actually with 2 more things to do. I want to look at this from an FPS point of view. So where is the troll? Oh, that's right, we had to get him started. Oop, there he is. And let's run away. And he has gone about his business. I do not know where he is. He's pushing me, that's where he is. And now he's gone back to waypoint 1. So because we've set the distance to be too short. Oh, he's turning around to get me, and I'll run away. So that's first thing. So that's the troll's kind of basic behavior. So I wanted to see that from here. And then the other thing was to set, so the Nav Mesh Agent has a speed, and also an angular speed, which is how quickly the troll rotates. So if I go to the troll here, I'm just going to take my waypoint 1 and actually push it into the troll, so every time I start, he starts walking. So if I press play, and where am I? There we go. So he's doing a lot of sliding, so I should really change this speed to say 1 to see if his pace, the pace of the walk, so he's still sliding, so maybe it should be 0.6, and maybe even 0.5. And then he spins around, so this should probably be half that speed, so it should be about 60. And now he's a lot more manageable as an enemy. He's not so fast. But just so if you want to get the speed of the non-player character's movements to match the actual pace that he's he's working in, or he's should be moving in to match the animation, you kind of need to tweak this. And just one little tip, I can right click on this and I can go copy component to remember these numbers, because when I stop this they'll reset to what they were before the game started. And now I can go paste component values, and it'll put in what I was using during the game, what I was experimenting with, which is a handy little tool. Okay, so we're going to leave it there, and that's how you get a non-player character to go on patrol, and then when you get close enough to pursue you. Okay, we'll leave it there for now.